Jamie and Sherwood. Jamie and Sherwood, that's the guy. First chance for Robert Saleh to make an impact is not coaching the team on the field. It's not the draft, although the draft is a big part of it too, even though he didn't have a ton of experience drafting defensive players at the top. And of course, he wasn't in charge of the draft then. He's not now. Jamie and Sherwood. Do you know who Jamie and Sherwood was the guy that led the NFL in solo tackles this year. That's the answer to the trivia question. Who was it? It was Jamie Sherwood. He was fourth in the league in total tackles. He's a 25-year-old free agent. He's the highest graded player, believe it or not, on the Jets defense last year. Now, you might say, well, somebody had to lead the league in tackles, and every team, even a bad team, has a leading tackler. True, but 98 solo tackles. Guess what else he is? A fifth-round pick. So Robert Saleh had success with a fifth-round pick, and the way that he can help impact the 49ers most immediately is, hey, guys, here's a guy who we should spend the money on instead of Dre Greenlaw. Now, you'd love to have Dre Greenlaw back. You'd love to have him healthy. Even if you get him back, which is not a guarantee, although I think it's not fait accompli, like the, on Instagram, you see the farewell party. It's not all said and done, but even if you get him back, you don't know what you're getting. And one of the hardest things in free agency is that players are not plug and play. You don't know guys that well. You haven't played them in your system that well. You haven't coached them. You haven't had them in the locker room. You don't really know what kind of competitors they are, except in the case of Devondre Campbell, you knew it was bad and you just had no better options. But you're going to have to compete with the Falcons probably, and Jeff Ulbrich. But Robert Saleh is going to know day one when he walks into the room and he sees the free agency board. And John Lynch says, what do you think? He's going to have an opinion. Should we spend money on this guy or not? And that is one of his best values immediately to the 49ers. Fourth in the league in tackles, 158. 98 solo tackles, number one in the NFL. So that's the first place he should have an opinion. Should he have a better opinion today than he did the last time he was on the 49ers when it comes to the draft? He should, but the GM was Joe Douglas, and they had good defensive players. So they only drafted 3 players of their 12 picks that they had in the first 3 rounds while Robert Saleh was the head coach of the Jets. They only drafted 3 defensive players. Will McDonald from Iowa had 10.5 sacks, but was 83rd among edge pass rushers in the NFL by ranking. Sauce Gardner, number 4, easy pick. And Jermaine Johnson, a linebacker a couple of years ago, was drafted at 26. So not a ton of experience there from Robert Saleh. 2 other impacts and a big concern that everybody has I'll get to in a second. But first, I want to tell you that this is brought to you by Prize Picks. Go to Prize Picks, code GUY, prizepicks.com. Use the code GUY, make a $5 lineup, immediately get $50 into your account just for playing right now for the big game. Do I have to say that? For the big game? Right now for the big game, you got Patrick Mahomes, half a passing yard. Gimme. You only have to combine him with one other person to have a lineup. In this case, I combine him with 2 other people. I love doing these types of lineups. Saquon, 26.5 rushing yards, more than that number in his first 5 rushing attempts. And then Jalen Hurts, more than 212.5 passing yards. That's one of my many lineups. Right now, Mahomes, what a deal. Just half a passing yard. Go to Prize Picks. Use the code GUY. Scan the QR code. Link in the description. Make a $5 lineup. You'll instantly get $50 into your account. So the other impact, of course, is the Niners add a special teams coach who is a free agent. Anytime you add a coach that you haven't coached with or you don't know that well, that is also free agency. The same things that apply in free agency to players apply to coaches. How is this person going to fit in? Is this a self-promoter or a team player? What is his competitive spirit like? Is he a good teacher? Does he fit it on the staff? Do the players respect him? All of these things. So Robert Saleh already an impact on special teams with Brant Boyer, the new special teams coach, where the Niners badly need help. They've gotten worse since Hightower. They've gotten worse. The Niners have not had a punt return for a touchdown since 2011. And some of you will know this. You hardos will know the last kick return touchdown for the 49ers came in 2018, was scored by Richie James. Now, I know most people are not freaking about returns. I think if I told you the Niners would be 15th in coverage instead of 28th or 29th or 30th, 32nd, if I told you they'd be 15th in coverage and wouldn't fumble a return in exchange for never scoring another special teams touchdown, you'd say, yeah, I'll do that trade. I'll score no special teams touchdowns on punt return or kick return, but be top half of the league, not get fooled 3 times on a fake punt, top half of the league in coverage, and maybe get the kicking situation figured out. Maybe. So that's another place that he's impacted. I think it'll be interesting what he's learned from being a head coach. What he's learned from being a head coach. Can he help Kyle in any way? I think where he really helps Kyle is Kyle has a trust in him and can just spend less brain power observing the defense. But I do think bringing Robert Saleh in a good way, but in a very real way, just adds a little bit of pressure to Kyle Shanahan. Why? Because he seems like the missing piece. Okay, Kyle, if this year doesn't go well, what was it this time? If it's not injuries, what was it this time? We got the defensive coordinator you wanted. And it's not just words. It takes money. The Niners said, Barrows reported, they're ready to make Robert Saleh the highest paid defensive coordinator in the land. Even more than Jim Knowles gets at Penn State. Maybe. So if you're going to make a guy the highest paid coordinator in the land, that is real money that your owner has to pay. You are saying to the boss, we got to get that. This guy is this is part of the solution here. So he better be part of the solution. Well, he's part of the solution and we need better players. That is the reality. He is part of the solution and you need to do a better job in player personnel. Jimmy's or Joe's. The reality is it's not or, it's and. It's Jimmy's and Joe's. Coaches love to give credit to the players and players love to give credit to the coaches. But all of them know that you need each to make the other one work. Guess who wins championships? Generally, the combinations of the best coaches and the best players. You need both. So I understand that there is some concern from some people. Let's get to some comments that we've gotten on YouTube in the last few days. Connor grabbed a few of these for me about Saleh, and I think there was an interesting theme here among these three. Steve says the Niners should have hired Dennis Allen. The absolute best case for the 49ers is to get Saleh for 1 or 2 years, and then he gets a head coaching job if things go well. Okay. That would be great. That is the best case. I understand that it's not ideal if the best case means your coach leaves, but that's often going to be the case. Right now, the Niners have a 4th place schedule, a quarterback they're about to pay, an aging roster, a more expensive roster, a critical year. They host the Super Bowl. If you told me it goes so well that Robert Saleh gets hired as a head coach somewhere in 2026, wouldn't you take that right now? I mean, it means you got to start back at square one again. Maybe you develop an assistant coach that becomes the next defensive coordinator. I mean, that should be a big part, really, of what the Niners are doing right now is planning for it to go well and having somebody more ready to be the next DC than when you had to do this last year or when you had to do it the last time. Go back to the DeMeco Ryan. Find the next DeMeco Ryans. That is part of your job right now. The coaching tree on the offensive side has been very well developed. It needs to be developed in the same way on the defensive side. Plan for it to go well with Robert Saleh. If nobody wants to hire Robert Saleh in 3 years, that's a problem for you. So plan for it to go well. Don't be afraid of the success. Tom said the challenge in Saleh is the fact that his defense requires significant rebuilding. This defense does. Is he undertaking that task? Are there other defenses poised to emerge as contenders? Wouldn't Saleh prefer this scenario to secure a head coaching position next year? He needs to lead a defense with players who can propel him to success. Unfortunately, the Niners lack the necessary talent. Well, he took the job. So, and Tom may have made this comment before he took the job. I'm not sure. But he took the job, and I think part of what you hope you get from him is a contribution of, here are some other, I'm a defensive coach. Here are some defensive players around the league that I think can help us. Here's a couple free agents we should sign. Here's a guy I noticed, he coached 5 games for the Jets this year. He was helping out the Packers. He should have a pretty good idea. He got to not do all the head coach stuff and hopefully spent some time getting ready to be a defensive coordinator. We'll find out the first time he talks. Getting ready to be a defensive coordinator, knowing full well that the Niners job was going to be his if he wanted it. Maybe not the whole time, but man, I want to be a head coach. Well, if you want to be a head coach, you got to have an idea of free agents. And if you're just focused on being a defensive coordinator, you got to have an idea of free agents. So hopefully some of the time he had not being a head coach and helping out the Packers, he was evaluating free agents, maybe even a little bit of draft. Let's see. Is this the comment? Okay. And then this comment here, I can't help but think the Niners have done this to themselves, putting all their eggs in this basket. Again, this is before he was hired, but the second part, if Saleh is so well regarded, who's to say he won't bail in 1 year and then we'll have the same issues again? We really need to put some thought into our continuity. So I can see there's just this common kind of concern that he's going to leave. And I would just say, good. Good. At this point, him being an attractive candidate in 2026 means it's gone well for the 49ers. So I think you don't go all eggs in. The Niners never go, I think it was Lynch or Shanahan said this recently. You don't go, quote unquote, all in any given year from a free agency standpoint, but that has to be the attitude with Robert Saleh. Every day that passes is one day closer to the Brock Purdy contract. You can go to heyguy.co to get your 262 hat or Hey Guy hats. These are the weather is turning. These hats are great for golfing. It's kind of a tech material. They're very comfortable. Rave reviews. Heyguy.co. Check them out. Click on if you're watching the YouTube, click on the QR code up in the corner.